Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Let me take a minute or two to just introduce the concept of what we're trying to do here today. As we were planning this event, one of the thoughts that crossed our heads was, what is it that is, how do we do something which has not been done before? And what would be something that would interest a lot of people and make a lot of sense to do? And one of the concepts we came up with was that it's not just the government, but it's also within us, the members of various chambers of commerce, that we can do something a little different. If you analyze the tradition here in India, we have many chambers of commerce, and we split up the market quite significantly and segment it out in various ways. But I think there is an opportunity here to try and, we thought there was an opportunity here to try and bring all the significant chambers of commerce together on one stage and try to form a Team India which is going to support the mission that we have here, which is Viksit Bharat. We are all working towards exactly the same agenda, indirectly or directly, and I think every chamber has defined their agenda towards Viksit Bharat. The question now is, how do we combine with each other and look at what the common threads here that can run between our programs and individual threads that can run for our individual programs, and how do we make those work? And that was the objective behind this session. We thought it would be something interesting and productive, and I'm hoping that we'll hear a little bit of diversity, at the same time a lot of convergence that comes out of a process like this. So let me begin without spending too much time on it. We have CII here, we have FICCI here, and we have ASSOCHAM here, and we have IMC here. So we are going to try and answer most of the questions that pop into our head. The questions are few, because I think the agendas are fairly well known. What I've done actually, gentlemen, is I've drafted 4 questions, and I'm going to just put those questions out, and then I'm going to let the flow be individual to each of you to answer each of those 4 questions, 3 of those questions, 2 of those questions, or more than 3 of those questions. It depends on what you choose to do. So the first question that I have for you is, what would you consider as the one most important message we all need to propose or iterate for our members and their actions in creating a Viksit Bharat? Okay. Second question is, what would be the one key message to the government of India in creating the environment for a Viksit Bharat? Third question is, how can Indian industry and trade play a role on the global stage as differently from what it has played till today? And 4, what are the 3 fundamental changes? What are the 3 fundamental changes that Indian populations need to adopt or accept in order to make progress and hit our goals in a Viksit Bharat? I thought this would cover all the 3 sections of society, which is the government, the public, and the media. And I think this could cover all of them in some way or the other. So having said that, maybe I can start with you, Manishi, to start answering the questions.
Yeah. Good evening, and thanks, Sanjay ji, for inviting me here. Just to straight away answer your 4 questions from the perspective of how ASSOCHAM sees it. Firstly, when you talk of what the industry needs to do, I think the government can only do as much. It's high time that the industry comes up with the animal spirits and starts investing, having faith in India's future. We've been talking a lot about some sectors of the economy is going down. Our growth rate probably down to 6.5%, but let's all appreciate we are still the world's largest, fastest growing economy. And we could be 3rd largest by 2030 at $7 trillion. So that's the role I think industry should play. Then you spoke about probably what we need to look at, probably as a role of chambers and promoting globalization of the economy. I think there I would like to bring focus on the role of MSMEs. And we have somebody who will speak more about it. MSMEs, they probably look at 60% of the employment in the industry, contribute 30% of the GDP. I think they have a big role to play in the global efforts for India. There, I would suggest that the MSMEs need to look at focusing more now on R&D, innovation, and even aspects like sustainability. There is no getting away from these three things going forward. We heard Mr. Harsh Mariwala a while back emphasizing on the need of innovation. And all these big companies we talk of today, they were small sometimes. They started with a small idea and they became big today. So that's something more for the industry. When it comes to government, we are always waiting to do a bit of government bashing always. But yes, to be fair to the industry and the chambers, I think a lot of good direction given in terms of focus areas in the recent budget. But there also something which the economic survey spoke about, the state level deregulation or the state level ease of doing business is something the government should focus on. Because it's not only ease of doing business, it will also reduce the cost of doing business. The resources which the industry is putting in managing the regulatory and the compliance environment can be used for more productive purposes. And lastly, I think you asked what we all as people of this country need to do. I think we all also need to look at things a little bit more long-term. That short-term jugaad mentality has to go off if we have to look at a Viksit Bharat by 2047. Thanks.
Before, Mr. Mariwala, I come to your questions, which are very interesting. I want to compliment you on, I have no idea how you could manage to get this Triveni of Anhoni, 3 Anhonis. The first, Mr. Mariwala actually spent the weekend doing the rehearsal with each one of us. He definitely called me and very meticulously articulating as to what he wants to get out of this conference and this session. I have been doing this for many, many years. I haven't seen any leader of our chamber really spending that much time. So my compliments to you, really. This is fantastic. Number 2, getting 4 chambers together on one platform is another Anoni. I have not seen this. I don't know how you managed to get that. The only other example which we have, Mr. Mariwala, is last year, I'm a practitioner of capital markets, so when we were we were interacting with SEBI and a number of things were coming up. And in the process, we said, look, it's an industry. So what is industry? So is it not, industry is not just one FICCI or CIR or SOCHEM or IMC. The industry is all put together. So we formed a common platform called Industry Standard Forum. It's the first time which happened. Everybody joined hand together. So getting everybody on the same platform is fantastic. And the third and the final thing is, this is the magic I really want to understand from you, is to last session of the day, all through the day, and the hall is packed. This is absolutely, compliments to all of you, Mr. Mariwala. This is fantastic conference. Coming to the question, I would answer this into 2 parts. The first is, he said that learn from somebody else's mistake. I would say learn from somebody else's experience. Our economic survey this time actually did some plain talking. If you read the economic survey, I am a follower of economic survey from 1983. I've read every single economic survey since then. This was absolutely plain discussion this time. One of the topic is Viksit Bharat. What do we need to achieve until 2047 to become Viksit Bharat? And he said 20 years, 8% growth. Now, we have several examples in front of us. Post-World War II, US actually grew at that rate. Subsequently, Japan grew at that rate. Japan got completely destroyed and then they grew at that rate. More recently, from 1990 to 2010, China grew at 9 to 10%. And they all came out of this and they moved into the segment which we want to move into. So we have the model in front of us. All that we need to do is to just pull it out, use AI, and adopt this for our needs, right? So, and that's what the economic survey is saying. The 6%, 6.5%, 7% growth is not going to be helpful. We need 8% growth, and we need to pull out one of those models. So that's point number 1. The second point is our suggestion to government, I would say DDD. Deregulation, digitization, and some form of dodge in India. We don't need to dodge the dodge. It is something which is worth considering. Deregulation, the economic survey actually starts by saying get out of the way. Finance minister's budget speech talks about deregulation. Go back to in the history, our regulatory framework or the legal framework has evolved post-independence, and it has an oversight of British laws. A lot of time has elapsed. We have actually re-looked at some of them. Companies Act, for example, 1956 became 2013. Income tax 1961 is getting rewritten now. There's a new bill now. IPC code is getting revised. FERA became FEMA. Some of you may not even remember. It used to be FERA. It became FEMA. So likewise, we need to relook at all our laws, suit this to today's requirement. And I would say what I think the Honorable Finance Minister said in the budget, which is we need to move away from the rule-based to more the decision on the quality of the law rather than the rule. And our judiciary also has to move in that direction. We need to decide very clearly that if there are 100 students in a class, 10 of them may not do as well as 90. But we need to protect those 90. Because 10 are not doing well, we have to give them tutorial, we have to give them extra work, handhold them, but we don't kill the balance 90. That is the attitude we should follow for the regulatory framework. The second, digitization, we have done a lot of work, so it's easy for us to really understand. I pick up one example, gold. Any estimate you pick up, at least $1 trillion of golds are lying in our lockers or your locker or somewhere else. If we pull that out, digitize it, there are technologies, blockchain, we can do crypto on gold. The number of papers have been written on that. That will bring a lot of the money which is stuck into the productive segment. Likewise, we can look at land, we can look at data, we can look at so many things we can actually digitize and create new economy. Dodge. As a finance professional, we have all learned time value of money. Anything has a value in a particular time. If we lose time, it loses its value. Dodge creates efficiency. And we have to focus on efficiency. There is no two ways about it. In our personal life, in our family life, in our professional life, so is applicable for the country as well. We need to find a way to become more efficient. That's the only way. Otherwise, I don't think we'll be able to achieve our target. Thank you.
Namaskar. I too would like to compliment Sanjay ji and the entire IMC for really having us together. In all the years that I've been CII, I don't think, sir, I've ever had. And I think that also goes to testament of what this conference is all about. The tagline that it is, Bharat coming together, Bharat connecting, Bharat being one. I'd like to approach the questions that you asked also a little differently, sir. The real challenge, the August gathering sitting in front of me is much, much more experienced, much, much more senior, and knows their nuances and the challenges better. So I cannot add any knowledge to that. But what I can do is I can tell you something which I feel definitely we all need to work on. Mindset. The real challenge is that on one hand, we want to be sustainable and we want growth, but do we actually carry those same things to even something as how we behave? You can't litter on one hand and expect your company employees to be sustainable. So unless and until we as a whole start working towards changing our mindset, so as CII chairman, one of the things I've been doing is working with academia and our industries to make the youth understand what are they getting into. Getting the right embedded, workforce where they do, like earlier in catering colleges, which I am from, we have a 6 months we work for 6 months in hotels. And that's when you actually learn that this is for the guest. Behind is something for us. It's a totally different world. And that breaks your illusion. And that's where you form whether you want to be a part of this or not. So when we look at mindset, whether you want to, quality, I think Mr. Piyush Goyal in the morning spoke something which I totally believe, that we cannot want to be the best and have a chalta hai attitude. I mean, sir was talking about Delhi dust, let's talk about Mumbai. You can't have a A-grade capital with a B-grade road. How will that come in? When we go in for accountability, when we go in for things which basically are part of our mindset. There's one thing which I always tell in my training programs. There were two people. One guy is walking and he sees one guy making something and he says, what are you doing? He says, I'm building a wall. And he goes a little further ahead and he asks the other guy, he says, what are you doing? He says, I'm making a temple. The karigar whose sense of purpose is there, obviously he is going to have a better product, a better finish, because he's seeing a bigger picture as compared to the guy who's just doing his job. So when we look at all these challenges, what government should do, what industry to do, I think it first starts with how proud are we of our own culture, how proud of we are our own selves, and where are we taking that forward while keeping our aspirations in mind. We cannot be number one without looking at the environment. We cannot be number one without carrying our society. We cannot be number one by not looking at quality. So first we got to want to be number one and change. And we all know what needs to be done. The ones who stand out and set themselves apart are the ones who are able to take and internalize, and after that, like an infection, spread it to their people. People say, oh, तुमको अच्छा staff मिलता है, boss मेरे को अच्छा staff नहीं मिलता है. उसको लेके उसको इंजेक्शन देना कि मेरे ग्रैंडफादर के क्या गुण थे. I think that's what differentiates a Tata Group versus many other big companies. That we look at them with the sense of, we know their ethos, we know what they carry, and that's how their workforce is a happier workforce, a qualitative workforce, and a lasting workforce. So something which I have been doing, sir, is more on the human aspect, because everyone knows their business. Everyone now, all our chambers, all these chambers and all associations spend a lot in buyer-seller meet, in educating their team members or their association members, in having various forums. So knowledge is not the challenge. But after you get that knowledge, if you don't apply it, where is the wisdom? So I think what we really all need to work on is the mindset aspect, whether it is academia, whether it is industry, or whether it is us as Bharatiya citizens. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'll just quickly sum up a few points that I have from IMC point of view that we think we should also talk about. And maybe we should debate a little bit more of those to say, what do we really need to do and how do we take action? Okay. So I think one of the points, Vishal, you brought up was very valid. We should really look at a change in attitude from within, which is where we start, which is how do we do things differently than what we've done before? How do we pay more, how do more of us pay more taxes? I think it's the first thing we need to think about doing. It's not that we are paying more taxes, we are paying reasonable rate of taxes. Can we not have more people paying taxes? I think that question it leaves a lot to be desired. I think we need to ask ourselves those questions. I think another very interesting point for us all to be thinking about is, why do we always contradict the government, or why do we always fight with the government? Can we not align with them on one issue that matters to us, that we all align on, rather than look at 3 issues that we contradict on? There may be 3 issues that we want to contradict on, but can we pick one that we align with them, and then at least build a common agenda that starts building together so that we move forward with this process? I think we waste so much time on contradictions that we really, you take simple things. We send our bills back to the parliament for review. We send our laws back to the parliament saying, this is not acceptable. That's true, it may be true, but there are 10 things that are not acceptable, but there will be one thing that's acceptable. Can we align on that and start giving positive signals to the government that we are aligned on some things? And once this is the same thing that happens in personal life. If you align with your partners, with your family on one issue, people start listening to you. And that's when they start listening to you when you say something we are not aligned on is the next point we want to talk about. How do we align ourselves? I think that becomes our second major issue, that perhaps as individuals, as a population, we can do some things right. I think if you look at what can the industry do, I think we really need to think global and think a little more quality, as Piyush ji also said this morning. how do we build quality products into our system? How do we build quality systems into our organizations? And how do we build organizations that compete fiercely with the world so that we don't have to depend on subsidies, we don't have to depend on dole, we don't have to depend on complaining that China is beating us at it, okay? I'm 100% sure that with in the innovation and ingenuity that Indians can deploy, we can beat China. We've done it in many cases, and I'm sure we can do it in almost every case. Yeah. I think coming to the government, I come back to again the quality issues. I think we also need the government to work very closely with us in raising the standards of quality. In fact, what you talk about is exactly this, which is why do we have unfinished roads? Why do we have unfinished pavements? Okay. How do we build laws that take care of these and ensure that we have, completely finished townships that are delivered back to the owners and finished roads, finished drains, roads that lead to a point, not necessarily, edifices that don't have roads leading to them. And I think these are issues which we really need to get the government to start fixing rather than wasting time on contradictions with us. And I think the second big issue is what you said, deregulate. Okay. Less governance, less government, and EODB, ease of doing business. How do we make it simple for us to do business? Don't make it complicated, make it simpler. Make it simpler. Simplify everything and make life easier. Trust your people, and I think get the government to start trusting us. Last but not the least, for associations such as us, I think one of the things we have done in the past has been, we've generally fallen in with the government. But there are times when we have to fall in, and there are times when we also have to say no to the government in certain things. I think we also have to show them the truth of the real picture in terms of where they're wrong and where they're right. And I think we need to do something more constructively. And if we all did this right, I think we will find that there's a lot of listening taking place. This government listens, and I think there is a possibility to get some things out of that process of listening. Having said that, I think we have all reached a point which has been useful, meaningful, and constructive. One last thing, what is the message you want to leave for the public at large that we have to take home? This is virtually the last session we have, so we will all, each one of us will take a message back home. So perhaps in 2 words or 3 words, you want to sum it up? Vishal, we start with you.
Sir, all I can say is that, each one aspires and each one has a certain goal or an ambition. Based on whatever is your goal and ambition, how is it that you take along? I have a legacy. To take my case, for example, I have big shoes to follow. My father, Dr. Vittal Kamath, when he started the Orchid in 1997, nobody knew what is environmentally sensitive. People thought ये eco hotel मतलब budget hotel है और ऊपर से कामत का है तो पक्का होगा. But the reality is something else. From there, it's one of the most highly awarded hotels from 97 onwards. So what did he do? And that's what I also aspire to do. My grandfather started Samrat Status. My father started Orchid. We took the legacy along, but along with that took people along. So what I would like is that when all these young entrepreneurs on stage who I saw, I would love to be one day at the age of, if I live till 75, 80, 90, in the audience when they are here, and they too have staff who have been there when their foundation day started. In Kamaths, you will be pleasantly surprised to know that a majority of our staff are over 10 years. And a lot of our staff actually, and we don't follow DEI, but without following any kind of formal DEI, in many of our hotels, from 3% to 10% are, hearing impaired or mildly autistic, employment people. And that's not because we want to do a target. We don't even promote this. It's because if that person has a desire to work, it is my duty to give him if he has the attitude, I will provide him the aptitude. And that basically is something which I would like that each one of our stalwarts is doing so much. Take inspiration and do further. What else can I say? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mariwala, in the beginning you said we may take the liberty to have a contrarian view as well. So on some of the points which you mentioned, I'll just touch upon the paucity of time, 1 or 2 things. You talked about tax, more people can pay tax. Well, all of us are in business. We are in consumer business. The basic mantra of the consumer business is customer's delight. If the customer sees the value in our product, they will pay value and they will pay price. Why don't we switch this? If people, all of us, the people in this room, if they see that the tax which we are paying, we are genuinely getting the value out of this tax, I have no doubt that each one of us will be very willingly will be able to pay tax. It's just that today we do not have that confidence, we do not have that clear understanding that we are getting the right value out of the taxes which we are paying. And that is the reason why all these issues around the taxes, which is happening. Aligning with the government and the quality, I'll club the 2 points together. See, it's also, it depends on, the quality goes with what you get, what you have. I keep saying that if you have a dirty house, you can't get a good tenant. Right? You need to first clean your house. You have to we need to fix our problem so that we will be able to do the quality product. We will be able to, look at, understand housekeeping, but we need to take the level of income up so that people actually can understand the housekeeping. They don't have availability right now. So we need to just do the basic work. We need to clean up our house and we will have a good tenant. If the house stinks, the tenant won't come. So this is where I think we still have work to do. The quality will come out. We have seen in the last 10 years, we have moved ahead. It's not that we have not, but we still have a lot of work to do just to say that, look, we need to offer quality, but we need to have the basic framework for that. Aligning with the government, I agree with you. We don't need to, but the challenge is that what about the delivery? You align, but there should be a delivery. So there has to be you take two hands to shake, right? So you align, but there should be a delivery along with it.
Not much more to add, but to probably summarize somewhat, I think other than, let's say, the 4 chambers coming together, something which you echoed, the government, the society, and the industry also has to come together. And something which was just said, it's a whole new attitude all 3 stakeholders have to have. Just a bit mathematically, you have 26 letters in the alphabets. If you put A for 1 and likewise, you add up the numbers against attitude and it adds up to 100%. So only attitude makes you 100%, which is a bit more mathematical but also very, very symbolic. So when I spoke about MSMEs improving quality, focusing on sustainability, all that is an attitudinal change in the society has to look at moving away from short-term thinking or jugaad. That's again a matter of attitude. And likewise the government, government has a vision, our Prime Minister has a vision of a Viksit Bharat. So there also the attitude in terms of easing the business has to be very, very strong. Only then probably all 3 of us will come together. Thanks.
Well, that brings us to the end of this session. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much for appearing today and being here. Wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and may we request all our eminent panelists to please join us in the center of the stage, allow us an opportunity to capture you in one frame. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very rare when you have ASSOCHAM, FICCI, CII and IMC Chamber of Commerce in one frame. I think that deserves an iconic round of applause, wherein you have the entire leadership of so many chambers. And as Mr. Sanjay rightly said at the start, that everybody has the same motive, which is towards Viksit Bharat. So congratulations to all the industry bodies for contributing towards this vision. And with that, if I may request Mr. Mariwala to now further help us with the felicitation of all our eminent panelists, starting with Mr. Manish Singhal. Allow us an opportunity to felicitate Mr. Manish Singhal. Mr. Singhal, of course, we'd like you to pose for a camera. Thank you so much, Mr. Sunil Sangai. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for contributing towards the conference, and thank you so much, Mr. Vishal Kamath. Thank you for joining us today.